her bio's okay, I'll swipe right.
Mm.
Um, I know one of my friends, he wasn't even looking at it, he was just swiping right on everything. Whatever matches, matches.
Yeah, I heard that that's the stereotypically male approach. Uh,
Yeah.
I like reading a little bit more, and I also try to, in some way, see if there's like a bit of a connection with the person as much as you can from the photos. Like, I do tend to stay away from people who don't show their eyes, like if they wear too
Ooh.
many shades, because not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's it leads me to believe they might be not so um wanting to be honest with the person in front, like not even with themselves. It's not even about me. It's just that, you know, a little bit of a few levels to go before, they can face to face. So anybody who has shades on or who's looking up to the side in every photo, I'm more discriminatory towards like psychological hacks than I am towards the person. If the person is showing up as they are with their eyes facing the photo and like looking straight at me, or me or whoever's watching, but then I'm like, okay, this person is maybe a little more free, and so let's get to know them a little better. So
Perfect, perfect. So I guess now I'm gonna open my eyes nice and big and just start
yeah,
staring at people.
don't be afraid to show yourself. Yeah, just be fully you.
I
And
agree.
so that's my strategy. But we'll see tonight, because yeah, this guy didn't cover his eyes, and I'm excited to see the personality, I guess. No expectation though.
Absolutely. Going there with an open mind, open heart, and most importantly, of course, open ears, because you want to know and get to know the person who you're meeting up with for the first time, because it could be a little bit scary. At least that's what the feedback I've been given from the women's perspective when it comes to a first date.
Interesting. Well, I actually think first dates are fun. So I really like first dates. I think that they're the least pressury, at least in my case. I mean, um, it's really just getting to know the person, no expectations. I don't really like, I know we're both going to go to our respective homes. There's nothing blurry about it. I mean, it's really a first date. So it's just kind of exciting, and you can kind of say whatever you want. And I've stopped putting pressure on anything when it comes to a first date. Just enjoying the person, like you said, open heart. Meeting them where they're, just being unconditional about it, because um, everybody is welcome to be who they are, and you just show up as yourself and enjoy the moment,
Do
enjoy the
you
shared humanity.
do you have like a standard approach to your first dates, or is it more like a go with the flow type of deal?
Go with the flow. It's a go with the flow. It's just like every moment of life, right? So if every moment you're making sure that you feel good and you're enjoying yourself, then I think the first date starts before it even happens. The first date starts when the person is confirming to you, and showing some direct interest, and being generally respectful of that, because it's also about them. Like if someone is putting respect into that date, regardless of the person that it's with, then that tells me about the person. So it's trying not to take anything personally. Everything is just who they are and where they're at and where you're at. And I also don't personally care where we go. It doesn't have to be a nice fancy place. That's actually what I'm enjoying about tonight. It's not going to be so it's not going to be so fancy, so I don't have to get super ready for it. It's just going to be relaxed and casual, and just like, let's hang out and we'll see where it goes. But yeah, I think first dates are pretty cool. The hard part is getting from there to, I think third date mark is like really rare to get to a third date. And then when you get to a third date, then it's like making it through those first 3 months. And then when you make it through those, then it's like 6 months. Then it's like, okay, well then now you have, a relationship, and then all sorts of human battles start happening, because it's really easy to be balanced and single, living in your own house. But when you bring in another person, I think that's where the real growth comes. So
Why do you think that there is that difficulty as the time with that person progresses from the first date to the second date to the third date, and then ultimately you'd have to make a decision: is this someone I'm going to continue to see, or am I not really feeling this? And let's have a mature conversation, and both go our separate ways. Why do you think there's that maybe difficulty or anxiety about that process?
Well, everybody um, has their own expectations, first of all. And I think we we get triggered, by certain things that are in another person. And when we get triggered by that, um, it's a chance to grow, but very often we want to run away. And so when you get to like the third or fourth date, then you start noticing like differences in communication habits. Maybe you take it a little bit more personally because some intimacy has taken place. And I think once that mark happens and there's an intimacy shared between two people, there's like this sort of suddenly both people have higher expectations and more, or at least one person has higher expectations and puts more pressure on the other person. So I think what's really important is to do also the boring stuff in a fun way, but also talk about like what it is you're looking for and what you're trying to do through this exploration with that person. So if someone is looking for, creating a long-term relationship, it's very different when the other person is just looking for something casual and to have fun. And both of those scenarios are perfectly valid. And I've been in both. And, but unfortunately, many people don't really have that conversation. So it's really about opening your heart and being open to saying these things. And it's very rare that, but it should happen more often, but it's very rare that two people are like, hey, I like you and I don't know where this is going to go, but I want to give it an honest shot. And I really enjoyed our time. And so like, let's kind of create this like conscious thing and, whatever this may bring. But very often we go off of like the mystery and the attraction and like, the silences and that stuff, on a biological level kind of works to create that attraction. But it's like, what makes a great lover doesn't make a great partner. So you kind of have to like also decipher, use a little bit of discernment. Like if that short-term attraction is really what you're after, then go for it. Enjoy the mystery. If you would like to make something more conscious, then it takes two hands to clap. Both people should be going towards each other in a way that's open and honest and transparent. So
I know for me, my first dates, it always seems like it's a little bit difficult because some things I always want to make sure is that, okay, I don't want to wear the same clothes to
but
these
I mean, if
different
they've never
dates.
met you, how would they know?
Well, it's because I think when you're in that dating stage, you're not dating like one person at a time. I think many of us are like serial daters, right? Like I'll go on a date with, let's say you, and then I'll go on a date with Jane, and then it would be Carmen, and then it would be someone else.
Okay.
So because I don't know how big your city is, but because I try to date outside of my city, so it's not that so I don't run into anyone that maybe I was on a previous
But
date
is it,
with, right?
you live in Toronto? It's like a huge city.
Well, yeah, so like the downtown area is quite small because many people probably take public transportation. But the
Uh,
greater Toronto area, to your point, is very large. It makes up, let's say, about 4 or 5 cities. So there's no problem. So let's say if I was going on a date with you, I'll just say, okay, let's meet here at this restaurant, halfway distance, and it's probably maybe 20 minutes from where I am. But one thing that I always plan for, at least from the male perspective, is that I want to present myself in a way that you're going to say, hey, this, I can see myself with this person. So I want to navigate that accordingly. So what I would do is I would learn more about you, and then I would plan the date accordingly, because I don't want it to be, let's say, what's your name? How are you
mhm.
doing? Where you're from?
Or like, what
What
is
do you
it that you do
do?
again? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want it to be that, right? I don't be like, okay, what's your passions? You know what terrain I like? Rock climbing. Okay, second date, we're going rock climbing. Or
That's
let's say
awesome.
you're someone that like loves the arts. I was like, you know what? There's a beautiful museum in Toronto. Alessandra, let's say we go on a Saturday afternoon. So it's pretty standard because I think when you organize a date later on in the day, maybe it can give off a vibe. Okay, he's going to ask me back to his house. Is she
Mm.
going to ask me back? Right. So when you're going on these dates, do you have that mindset where you're like, okay, depending on where we're going and when we're going, there's always a possibility of X?
Oh no, I mean, I already decided very much in advance that none of that is taking place. But no, I mean, I'm sorry to say, I mean, there was a, there's a time and place for everything. But I think just like with a lot of things, the decision should be made in advance. Like, or you can go and say, let's see what happens. But if you go and say, let's see what happens, I mean, generally speaking, if you're going out at 9 p.m. for drinks, like, where do you think that's going to go? Like, truly. So if you decide in advance, and, it's not my first rodeo, it's just going to be a platonic meeting. And then, sure, we can see how it goes, like, in a PG setting, but um, you can tell by the person too. You can tell by how the date is being set up, and there's no wrong way to do anything with the right person or the wrong person. It's all a lesson. Like, obviously, be safe, but I don't typically run into that. I don't know if it's because I've gotten older and like started to accept my position as like a more of like a female. Like, I think the woman kind of decides if it's going to go that way or not. It's the job of the man to, like, pursue action in a way, and then the woman is like, okay, yes or no. So for me, it's a clear no, but it's not in a bad way. It's just like, actually, if we're going to invest in something, it would be great to kind of like cover some of these other details before we bring in, like, perhaps like a total loss of logic because hormones take over. So it's just biological. Like, when the hormones come through, like, nobody knows what's going on anymore. And it's wonderful. It's beautiful and it's fantastic phase. But like, a lot of things probably should be discussed in advance. If you're looking for something meaningful, if you're looking for a great, couple weekends in a row and like enjoying that, that's cool too. Oxytocin, go for it. So yeah,
I
so it's
always, sorry to interrupt you. I always wondered if women actually decide that before the date or during the date or afterwards. And you alluded that for many women, yourself included, that your point of view is that you're not going to do this on the first date. So is that something that like is a hard rule for yourself and maybe other women, or is it more so like, I don't want to set that expectation, so going into it, I'm going into with the mindset that I am not going to be intimate to that degree with this person?
I can't speak for all women, for sure. And I can only speak for myself and what works for me, because I really value my kind of like energy and like my carefully curated energy. And I, so bringing someone in to my space, which includes like sharing intimate moments with someone, it doesn't feel appealing to me until I've gotten to know the person. So it's for me, it's like a hard no, but it's kind of like preposterous for me to imagine that we would come back to my place. It's like absolutely preposterous. I've never even met this person. Like, in an hour, I'm gonna meet him, like, in Italian. We would go like, are you serious? Like, for real, no. But I mean, when I was really young in college, like, these kinds of things were part of being a kid and growing up, and like, it's happened. And did it prevent relationships from taking place? No, because everybody is just kind of feeling their way around the touch tunnel. So I can't speak for every single woman. I just know that for me, it's pretty simple. Like, it's just like, there's no cards on that table. It's not a deal. It's not a game that we're playing. And it's not in a bad way. It's like, I absolutely enjoy those parts when they come up in the future. But, if we're getting to know each other, let's be a little bit more like that. But it's good to be free too. I mean, I don't want to be prescriptive. I really don't. It's just the method that I feel most comfortable with. And my method is, it works for me. Everybody's got to figure out their way.
I remember I told one of my friends, because I'm 34, and I told one of my friends, I haven't had a one night stand. And they looked at me like, like I just, and the reason why is one of the reasons why is because I'm just so paranoid about it going left, right? Where
Oh
it could just
no.
go totally wrong. Because many of the reasons why you mentioned, right? Like I don't really know this person, and if they come over, let's say if it goes horribly wrong, they know where I live, they know all these other things, right? I'm just a paranoid type of person. But I can respect when someone does it because I understand, because you highlighted when the hormones are raging, and when you look at someone and you find them so attractive and the vibes are so good and the conversation is amazing and you just connect. Because I think we've all been there. We were like, wow, it's like I've known this person my entire life. Like, where were you when I was looking for this, right? But one thing that I did find is that, and to your point, a relationship, the way I view it is different for me. It's different for you. It's different for so many other people. But it seems we all want the same thing. We all want to be loved. We all want the companionship. We all want the respect. We all want to, as our parents would probably say, grow old together. And you know what? That's my old battle axe and that's my old man and all this other stuff, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when I know for you, I was looking at some of the things that you were doing and some of the work that you engage with. Um, how do you actually, let me take a step back. How did you get started in doing this and having this type of conversation where you wanted to make a difference in the world of dating, where sometimes it seems we all are struggling one way or another?
Hmm. So it evolved on its own. It's kind of like when you're doing something that is in alignment, it's going to lead you down paths that are further in alignment with your next phase in life. And when I had a pretty intense breakthrough during COVID, breakdown, breakthrough crisis, whatever we want to call it, during COVID, and meditation found me on my path, and it shifted completely for the first time the way I saw the world. So I was no longer interpreting my exterior as a reflection of who I was, but rather that shift of when you finally see the world from inside of yourself, not in an egotistical way, but, you know, take care of yourself and then the world will change yourself and things will shift around you. And so when I was shifting myself, because it simply felt good and real and authentic, and finally this place of connection that I can only attribute to inner peace and self-love, and you know this incredible moment inside of me, inevitably it started impacting my friendships, my work environment, my relationships. And so also dating life was very, very deeply impacted by the way that I approached certain things. And when you recognize that we're all so sovereign behind, these beautiful bodies that we have and this mind that we have, but behind that, there's a soul that's like really, truly, perfect. Why would you treat it any differently? And so when you approach things that way, it doesn't mean that there's a hard yes or a hard no, unless, whatever, in this case, as we said before, there would be, but you just do things a little bit differently. And then you are also not as attached to outcome. You're just kind of like comfortable with what you're doing in every moment. So there's a little bit, it's not always, I mean, life doesn't become that simple, but it does become more aware. And so whatever you're doing, you're able to observe it as well. And you're able to make it work in a way that contributes towards your growth and expansion. And everything is part of your journey towards learning, and you're part of theirs. And in a way, we're all like holographic mirrors towards each other. So, and it's really real, it's not like a fake image. It's like, you're that other person that is reflecting where you're at when you're meeting with them, is also experiencing very real life situations that are in reflection of yours. And it's beautiful that you've met at this point in life. And it's beautiful. What is that there to teach you? And is it there to teach you a lesson, or is it there to teach you many lessons? And how beautiful that this came upon your path, you know, rather than like, this person did this to me, or they're not texting me, or like, blah, 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 or like, I'm unlovable. No, relax. Like, relax. It's all there. Like, it's all there for some beautiful purpose. And the second you identify it is the second you neutralize it, and then you can move forward. So this is like this is like such a funny way to like prepare for my date. I'm like talking, getting myself in like this like universal state of neutrality in advance.
It's like real life therapy, right? Like,
I know. I'm like, wow, like self-fulfilling prophecy. I'm gonna go out there and be like, well, I mean, this is just really how I like to approach it. And it's where I'm at. So I think the most important thing is like, if this is inspiration to someone listening, awesome. If it's not, awesome, because the only thing is like, you should find what works for you. And so yeah, I just like to come home and like feel like, you know, I enjoyed my time, and I didn't change anything about myself during that experience, and I remained as authentic as I could, and I didn't allow things to sway me or take me off my center.
For those who are watching on YouTube, Facebook, and my social media website, stay tuned for more incredible interviews like the one we have with Alessandra today, and we will be back for more. So stay tuned, everyone.